Hello students, welcome back with the basic concepts of OOP. So let's start. The objective of today's session is to know about basic concepts of object-oriented programming, benefits of object-oriented programming and object-oriented languages. So let's start with the first topic, basic concepts of object-oriented programming. So this one is the figure. You can see class, attribute, method, object, encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction and polymorphism as the basic concepts of object-oriented programming. So these are known as the basic fundamental requirements to implement object-oriented paradigm in your system. Let's see the first one, object. The objects are basic runtime entities in the object-oriented systems. So we can say it is a real-time entity also. They may represent a data or items that the program has to handle. So we can say each object contains the data and code to manipulate the data. So objects can interact without having to know details of each other's data or code. We can say objects can communicate without knowing the background detail of other object. So let's see the representation of object. Here is we can see there is a class with having general attributes and behaviors. The class name is apple. It is having two attributes, color and taste. And the function is display. We can say a function or method as a behavior of an object. Now see the object 1 and object 2 specified here. First object is Granny Smith, that is one type of apple, and another object is delicious, that is another type of object. Now let's compare their attributes values. So Granny Smith apple is having green color and sour taste, while the delicious apples are red and sweet in taste. So we can say the two objects communicate using display method, but they don't know what the color of delicious object or Granny Smith object. So we can say objects communicate with each other using function or method. Now let's see the class. So class is a user-defined data type and objects are variables of that type of class. Means class is a data type of which we can create a variable and that variable is called object. These data types are user-defined data types. So once a class has been defined, we can create any number of objects belonging to that class. So each object is associated with the data of type class with which they are created. So we can say class is a collection of object of similar type. Now let's see the comparison between class and object. In the first point, we can say that class is a container which is a collection of variables and methods, while object is an instance of a class. Means class provides a container and object is a variable of type class. So the second point is no memory is allocated at the time of declaration of a class, while in the case of memory is allocated for all the variables of class at the time of declaration for objects. So we can say class is just declared without initializing any memory, while whenever we declare any object, it must be initialized to some memory locations. The last thing that we can compare class and object is one class definition must or should exist only once in a program, while we can have more than one objects of same class in a same program. See here, the car is a class. It is having methods and attributes. So method refuel, get fuel, set speed, get speed and drive. These are the behavior of car. And the attributes, fuel and maximum speed, max speed. These two are the attributes of class car. Now let's see. A car is having three objects: Mercedes, BMW and Audi. That means we can have different attribute values for these three different car models, right? So as we can see here that class is a container and it has three different object variables having different attribute values. Now let's see the encapsulation. What is encapsulation? It is the process in which the data and functions are wrapped together into a single unit. So the data is not accessible to the outside world and only those functions which are wrapped in a class can access it. These functions provide an interface between the object, data and the program. That means encapsulation provides a cover to the variables and function of class, and that particular cover is known as a class. From the figure here we can see that this is a tablet which doctors gives to us, to the patients. So whenever we see the tablet from outside, it is only having a cover which is shown to us. But inside it, inside the capsule, there are so many different medicine drugs mixed together that we cannot see from the outside. Same as a class is a container in which inside a class we have variables and functions put together. But from the outside it is only seen as a class. So this process is known as encapsulation. Now the next thing is data abstraction. Data abstraction refers to the act of representing the essential features without including the background details. That means just need to know only required features and not getting bothered about the hidden features. So classes use this concept of abstractions and they are defined as a list of attributes and functions to operate on these attributes. And the attributes are sometimes known as data members because they hold the information, and the functions that operate on those data are known as methods or member functions. That means in a class we are having variables and functions both. So variables are known as data members and functions are known as member functions. Now let's see the abstraction here. In this class, so many information is kept. But whenever we want general attributes of the human, then we will see the qualification or key skills or job details of the person. But whenever attributes related to medical purpose are required, at that time their name, age, blood group and weight, all these attributes are taken into consideration. That means whenever there is such kind of requirement, at that time only this information is revealed to the user. So this is known as data abstraction. The next thing is inheritance, the very important concept in object-oriented paradigm. Inheritance generally is known as the process in which object of one class acquire the property of object of another class. That means it supports the concept of hierarchical classification and it provides the data idea of reusability. With the help of inheritance, we can add the additional features to an existing class without modifying it. That means we may have existing class and we want to add more features to that old class, then we can just add these new features to the old existing one. So it is possible by deriving a new class from the existing one. The new class will have the combined features of both the classes. From the example here, in inheritance, we can see the main class is a class vehicle which is having three behavioral functions: fuel amount, capacity and apply brakes. While it has three subclasses: class bus, class car and class truck. Now in this figure we can see that bus, car and truck, all these three are the vehicle of different from each other, but they all are having the same behavior related to fuel amount, capacity or apply brakes. So we can say that the existing class vehicle can be extended to class bus, class car and class truck with having their own unique features. One more example of inheritance is a child. A child is having the properties of their parents, mother and father both, right? So we can say the mother and father are two base classes and their property is inherited to their children, and also that children have their own unique properties. So we can say it is the best example of inheritance. The next concept is polymorphism. Polymorphism means the ability to act differently in different situations. Here the word poly and morphism both are combined together to make this meaning. Poly means many and morphism means forms. So we can say polymorphism means many forms. A single thing or single entity act differently in different situations. That's why it is known as polymorphism. So we can say that an operation may take different behaviors in different instances. That means at different times a particular function or operator behaves differently. So the behavior depends upon the type of data used in the operation. We can say the example of polymorphism is the addition operator. Addition operator can be used to add two integer numbers. At the same time, polymorphism concept in C++ provides the ability to add two different variables of type string, or we can say two different objects of same class. So it is known as polymorphism. The process of making an operator to behave in different forms in different instances is known as operator overloading. Same way, using a single function name to perform different tasks is known as function overloading. So we can say that operator overloading and function overloading are the two types of polymorphism that is supported in object-oriented programs. So let's see the example of polymorphism. See, the person is standing is while he or she is in shopping mall, they behave like a customer. While they are in bus, they behave like a passenger. While they are in a school, they behave like a student. And if they are at home, they behave like a son. So this is the best example of polymorphism. Also we can see in the diagram that shape is a main class and it is having one function draw. The same class is inherited or it has created three objects like circle object, box object and triangle object. So all these three objects are having their own version of draw function. See here, draw circle, draw box and draw triangle. That means all these three functions are having same name as the class function draw, but all these are having different argument values like circle, box and triangle. That means they behave differently in different time. Let's see the classification of polymorphism. So this one is the classification of polymorphism. In that you can say polymorphism is basically divided into two parts: compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism again is having its two types that we can implement compile time polymorphism in two ways. First way is operator overloading and second way is function overloading. And runtime polymorphism can be implemented by using virtual function concept in object-oriented programming. So this is all about the polymorphism in C++. The next thing is dynamic binding. We can say it is a late binding also. Why it is called dynamic or late? Because linking of the procedure call to the code when it is being executed is done at the time of run. Means whenever we are running a program, at that time a program decides to call which function based on the value passed to the function call. So it is known as dynamic binding. So we can say dynamic binding means the code associated with a given procedure call is not known until the time of call at runtime. So it is associated with polymorphism and inheritance. The next one is a message passing. Message passing means the communication between objects. An object-oriented programming consists a set of objects that communicate with each other. That means a message for an object is requested for execution of a procedure, and therefore it will invoke a function or procedure in the receiving object that generates the desired result. So the steps for message passing are: first you need to create a class that define the object and their behavior. The second step is to create the object from the class. Then third step is to establish a communication among objects. And the fourth thing is objects communicate with one another by sending and receiving information. So let's see the example. This one is the example in which we can see that employee dot salary into bracket name. Here salary is a name of a function and name is the attribute which is the argument passed to the function salary. So we can say the salary is message here which is having the information name, and that is being called by the object employee. That means class employee is having some object named employee and it is calling the function salary with argument name. That is the object, message and information in object in message passing. Now let's discuss the advantages. What are the advantages of object-oriented programming? So whatever we know about the basic concepts, these are the all new features of object-oriented programming. So we can consider all those features provides advantage to object-oriented programming. So we can say from the first advantage that it is easy to model real-world entities. Obviously, object-oriented paradigm is better to implement real-world systems, real-world problems with compared to procedure-oriented programming. The second one is we can eliminate redundant code through inheritance. Redundant means repeated code. Again and again, if we are writing a same code, then it is known as redundant code. And to eliminate redundancy from the program, we use inheritance in C++. Same way, if we are not using the same code again and again, then it saves our development time and cost. So we can say inheritance provides reusability and eliminate the redundancy from the programs. So we can also build secure programs by using data handling provided by data encapsulation and data abstraction concepts. The next advantage is it can be easily upgraded from small to large system. The existing system may be extended with having extra features easily in object-oriented programming. The next one is using inheritance capabilities of existing classes can be extended. We can extend the same existing class for more new features. The polymorphism provides flexibility by allowing multiple forms of same thing, as we discussed in the concept of polymorphism, that same operator or same function can take different forms or behave differently in at different time. So software systems are easy to maintain with object-oriented programming. Now let's see the object-oriented languages. There are so many object-oriented languages, but it is having two different concepts. First one is object-based programming and second one is object-oriented programming. So depending upon the features they support, these two categories are invented. So let's see the first one. Object-based programming languages supports encapsulations and object identity. So major features provided by object-based programming languages are data encapsulation, data hiding, data access mechanism, automatic initialization and clear up of objects, operator overloading. But here we can see they don't support inheritance and dynamic binding. The example of object-based programming languages is ADA. The next thing is object-oriented programming language. The object-oriented programming languages incorporates all of the object-based programming features along with inheritance and dynamic binding. So as we know, the object-oriented programming languages are C++, C Sharp, Java, Smalltalk, Object Pascal, and etc. Many more. Hope this session is useful to everyone. Thank you.